This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Halloween Podcast. I am your host, Lyle Perez, and you're listening to episode 57 of our special series, The Dark Record, where we uncover history's eeriest stories, one strange and unsettling case at a time. This one happened close to home, in Riverside County, California. In February of 1994, a woman named Gloria Ramirez was rushed into the emergency room at Riverside General Hospital. She was battling advanced cervical cancer, but what unfolded that night shocked everyone. Doctors and nurses who tried to save her life suddenly collapsed themselves, stricken with nausea, fainting, and muscle spasms. One woman nearly died. Before long, newspapers across the country had given Ramirez a haunting name, the Toxic Lady. The next entry into the dark record, The Toxic Woman of Riverside. Let's begin. On the evening of February 19th, 1994, Gloria Ramirez was brought into the emergency room at Riverside General Hospital. She was just 31 years old, but already in the final stages of cervical cancer. Her family called 911 when she began experiencing severe breathing difficulties and an irregular heartbeat. By the time she reached the hospital, her blood pressure was dropping fast and her breathing had turned shallow and erratic. Emergency staff rushed to stabilize her. They administered sedatives, oxygen, and began preparing to defibrillate her heart. But as doctors worked, they began to notice something unusual. Ramirez's skin seemed to glisten with an oily sheen, as though coated in a strange film. A faint, garlicky odor hung in the air, and when nurses drew her blood, a strong smell of ammonia filled the room. Some even reported seeing tiny crystalline particles floating inside the syringe. At first, the staff pressed on, trying to ignore the oddities. But then, one by one, the medical team began to falter. A nurse who had drawn blood suddenly complained of dizziness before collapsing. Another developed shortness of breath and muscle spasms. Doctors felt lightheaded. A total of 23 people in the ER experienced strange symptoms that night, and 5 were hospitalized. One of them, an intensive care nurse, suffered such severe complications that she required weeks of treatment before she could return to work. Through it all, Ramirez's condition worsened. Despite the chaos in the room, doctors continued CPR and defibrillation, but it was no use. At 8:50 p.m., Gloria Ramirez was pronounced dead. Her official cause of death was kidney failure brought on by cancer. But for those who were in the room, the story didn't end there. The aftermath left Riverside General Hospital reeling. How could one patient trigger a medical emergency that sickened her caregivers? Local newspapers quickly seized on the story, dubbing Gloria Ramirez the Toxic Lady. To the public, it sounded like something out of science fiction, a woman whose very body had turned poisonous. For investigators, it marked the beginning of one of the strangest medical mysteries ever recorded in a modern hospital. In the days after Gloria Ramirez's death, Riverside County health officials launched an investigation. Something in the emergency room had clearly gone wrong, and the idea that a patient's body could make hospital staff collapse demanded answers. Initial testing of the ER turned up nothing unusual. No gas leaks, no toxins in the air. Blood samples from Ramirez were preserved, and her body was sealed in a coffin and stored in an airtight chamber to prevent further exposure. When the county called in outside experts, the mystery deepened. The most influential study came from scientists at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Their chemists began looking closely at reports from the ER staff, the garlicky odor, the oily sheen on Ramirez's skin, and especially the ammonia smell and crystalline structures in her blood. These clues suggested that something chemical, not supernatural, might be at work. The team proposed a startling hypothesis. Ramirez, they said, may have been using a topical pain remedy made from dimethyl sulfoxide, or DMSO. At the time, DMSO was a popular home treatment among patients with chronic pain, despite not being FDA approved. In high doses, it leaves a distinctive garlicky smell on the breath and skin, matching what ER staff described. Here's where the theory takes a dramatic turn. Under the oxygen-rich environment of the emergency room, DMSO in Ramirez's bloodstream could have been oxidized into dimethylsulfone, or DMSO2, the crystalline material that some staff believed they saw in her blood. Then, when she was given electrical shocks from the defibrillator, scientists argued that DMSO2 might have been converted into dimethyl sulfate, a highly toxic chemical that vaporizes at room temperature. Dimethyl sulfate exposure can cause shortness of breath, fainting, muscle spasms, and organ damage, the very symptoms experienced by the ER team that night. It was a chain reaction that sounded almost too incredible to believe. A common solvent transformed inside a human body into one of the deadliest compounds known to chemistry. Yet the pieces lined up disturbingly well. The oily skin, the ammonia smell, the sudden wave of symptoms among staff, all matched what the Livermore team's hypothesis could explain. In 1997, their findings were published in Forensic Science International, giving the case its most widely accepted scientific explanation. The theory didn't answer every question, but it offered a way to understand how a dying woman could inadvertently poison those trying to save her. For some, it closed the book on the mystery. For others, it only raised new questions about whether such a chemical transformation could really occur in a hospital setting at all.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Do you love the strange, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? Horrifying History takes you on a chilling journey into the dark corners of the past, where history and horror collide. From haunted places and ghostly legends to unsolved mysteries and terrifyingly true stories, you will uncover the twisted facts that history books leave out. Who were the real monsters behind infamous legends? What dark secrets lie buried in the pages of history? Every episode, we reveal the eerie truths that will send shivers down your spine. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Horrifying History, available now wherever you listen to your podcasts. But don't wait for too long. The past might just come looking for you. Listen if you dare.
Not everyone accepted the Livermore Lab's chemical theory. To some toxicologists, the idea that dimethyl sulfoxide could transform inside the body into a cloud of deadly dimethyl sulfate felt far-fetched. The chain of reactions required heat, oxygen, and conditions that weren't normally present in human physiology. If true, it would have been the first documented case of its kind in medical history. That left room for other explanations. One of the earliest suggestions was mass psychogenic illness, better known as mass hysteria. Investigators noted that the symptoms appeared in clusters and didn't affect everyone equally. Most of the staff who collapsed were women, and many had been working in close proximity. The symptoms, fainting, nausea, dizziness, could be consistent with a stress-induced reaction rather than chemical poisoning. In a chaotic ER, where the smell of ammonia and the fear of contamination were already in the air, it was possible that panic spread faster than any toxin. Others looked at environmental causes. Could industrial chemicals from the nearby area have contaminated Ramirez's body or the hospital environment? Some speculated about pesticide exposure or manufacturing solvents, but no definitive source was ever traced. The hospital itself was tested for leaks and toxic gases, and nothing unusual was found. More fringe theories also circulated. Tabloids speculated about government experiments or secret military chemicals. Paranormal writers even suggested Ramirez's body had become radioactive. None of these claims had evidence behind them, but they found eager audiences in a case that already sounded like something out of a science fiction thriller. For the families of the hospital staff who fell ill, the uncertainty only made the situation harder. If mass hysteria was the explanation, it implied that the medical professionals hadn't been poisoned at all, that their collapse was psychological. Yet several of them, including an intensive care nurse, suffered long-term health effects that were difficult to explain away as stress. Muscle weakness, breathing problems, and neurological symptoms persisted for weeks. The debate over what happened in that Riverside ER became as much about belief as about evidence. Was this an unprecedented medical accident caused by an unusual chemical reaction? Or was it a case of panic and suggestion magnifying a strange but harmless incident into a full-blown crisis? Nearly 30 years later, both explanations still have defenders, and neither has silenced the other. When the dust settled, skeptics tried to step back from the sensationalism and examine what could realistically explain what happened that night in Riverside. The Livermore Lab's chemical pathway was ingenious, but even some chemists admitted it relied on conditions unlikely to occur inside a human body. The transformation of dimethyl sulfoxide into dimethyl sulfate had never been replicated in living tissue, and critics argued it was more theoretical than proven. If such a reaction were possible, why hadn't it been observed in other medical emergencies? Supporters of the mass psychogenic illness theory pointed to patterns that chemical poisoning didn't fully explain. Not every doctor or nurse in the room fell ill, and those who were affected displayed a range of symptoms that varied in severity. Some collapsed immediately, while others reported only dizziness or nausea. A toxic chemical should have produced more uniform effects, they argued, and more consistent test results. Blood work on affected staff showed no trace of known toxins. Skeptics also highlighted the role of stress and context. Gloria Ramirez was already in the final stages of cancer. She was dying in a crowded ER, and the unusual odors and strange appearance of her blood created a sense of alarm. In a high-stress environment, panic can spread rapidly, and physical symptoms can cascade among people who are otherwise healthy. Episodes of mass illness, often triggered by smell or fear of contamination, have been documented in schools, factories, and even hospitals. To skeptics, the Riverside case fit this pattern too well to ignore. Still, the skeptical explanations have gaps of their own. The nurse who suffered severe complications was hospitalized for weeks and endured long-lasting health issues that are difficult to explain as hysteria alone. Others insisted that what they experienced felt physical, not psychological. Dismissing their suffering as mass hysteria risks minimizing the very real damage they endured. Ultimately, the skeptical perspective leaves us in a familiar place, caught between a theory that may be too extraordinary to accept and an alternative that feels too dismissive to satisfy. The toxic woman of Riverside remains suspended between these poles, an event grounded in reality, yet never fully explained by science. This case hits closer to home for me because it unfolded in Riverside County, the same area where I grew up. To think of a normal February night at a local hospital turning into something so bizarre makes the story all the more unsettling. These weren't abstract figures in a textbook. They were nurses, doctors, and staff who walked into work expecting another shift, and instead found themselves collapsing to the floor, unsure if they would survive. What lingers with me is how quickly an ordinary medical emergency spiraled into a nightmare. A young woman, already suffering through the final stages of cancer, became the center of a mystery that endangered the very people trying to help her. The hospital, a place that should be a sanctuary of healing, suddenly became hostile. Its air thick with fear, its hallways filled with patients and staff fighting symptoms no one could explain. It also makes me think about the limits of science. For all our progress, there are still moments when doctors and investigators look at the same evidence and walk away with different conclusions. Was Gloria Ramirez's body chemically transformed into something toxic, or did fear itself poison the room? Decades later, there's still no clear answer. And maybe that's what's most haunting. The idea that even in the sterile, fluorescent-lit world of modern medicine, mystery can still creep in. For me, Gloria Ramirez isn't just the toxic lady. She was a woman battling pain and illness who, in her last hours, became part of something no one in Riverside could forget. Her story reminds me that mysteries don't just belong in old settlements or ancient legends. They can unfold in our own neighborhoods, in places we trust the most.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Do you love the strange, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? Horrifying History takes you on a chilling journey into the dark corners of the past, where history and horror collide. From haunted places and ghostly legends to unsolved mysteries and terrifyingly true stories, you will uncover the twisted facts that history books leave out. Who were the real monsters behind infamous legends? What dark secrets lie buried in the pages of history? Every episode, we reveal the eerie truths that will send shivers down your spine. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Horrifying History, available now wherever you listen to your podcasts. But don't wait for too long. The past might just come looking for you. Listen if you dare.
The story of Gloria Ramirez spread far beyond Riverside. Within days of her death, newspapers across the country were calling her the Toxic Lady. The phrase stuck, framing her not as a patient, but as a phenomenon. What might have been remembered as a tragic death from cancer instead became one of medicine's most unsettling mysteries, an event that continues to fascinate, disturb, and inspire. The case found its way into forensic textbooks as a cautionary tale, often cited in discussions of chemical exposure and mass psychogenic illness. It also seeped into popular culture. Episodes of The X-Files and Grey's Anatomy referenced hospital incidents where patients' bodies endangered those around them. Paranormal writers folded the story into lists of strange, unexplained deaths. Even anime, like the Japanese anthology Memories, included eerie nods to the idea of toxic humans. Each retelling exaggerated some details and downplayed others, but all leaned into the core image of a hospital turned hostile by one dying woman. The legacy also lives in the unresolved nature of the case. The Lawrence Livermore Lab's DMSO to dimethyl sulfate theory is widely cited, but it remains unproven. The mass hysteria hypothesis explains the pattern of symptoms but struggles to account for long-term effects. This tension between science and mystery ensures that the story continues to be retold, with new audiences debating the same unanswered questions. For Riverside, the event became part of local lore. Residents still remember the night the hospital turned into a danger zone, and the eerie nickname that followed. In broader culture, the toxic woman became a symbol of how fragile the boundary is between medicine and the unknown. If a modern ER could be undone by one patient, what does that say about the limits of control in even the most advanced systems? Nearly 3 decades later, the image endures. A young woman wheeled into an emergency room, surrounded by professionals ready to save her life, only for the air itself to turn against them. It's a story that blends tragedy, science, and myth, ensuring that Gloria Ramirez's name will remain etched into both medical history and the darker corners of popular imagination. That brings us to the end of episode 57 of The Dark Record. We've revisited the strange and tragic story of Gloria Ramirez, the woman who came to Riverside General Hospital seeking help, and in her final moments became the center of one of medicine's most unsettling mysteries. Whether caused by a rare chemical reaction, mass psychogenic illness, or something we still don't fully understand, the case of the toxic woman of Riverside remains unresolved. It endures not because of clear answers, but because of the unsettling possibility that even in a modern hospital, the unknown can still overwhelm us. Remembered, retold, and now added to the record. Next time, we'll turn to a tale that mixes folklore with fear, an antique wooden chest said to carry a curse, blamed for nightmares, illness, and terror. We'll explore the Dybbuk box. Until then, I'm Lyle Perez, and this has been the Halloween Podcast presenting The Dark Record. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps keep the show alive and weird. You can also explore sources, extras, and more at our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Halloween Podcast or at our website, thehalloweenpodcast.com. Thanks for listening. Keep your eyes on the shadows, and remember, some mysteries don't rise from legends. They walk into emergency rooms. Have a good night.
This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Do you love the strange, the unexplained, and the downright terrifying? Horrifying History takes you on a chilling journey into the dark corners of the past, where history and horror collide. From haunted places and ghostly legends to unsolved mysteries and terrifyingly true stories, you will uncover the twisted facts that history books leave out. Who were the real monsters behind infamous legends? What dark secrets lie buried in the pages of history? Every episode, we reveal the eerie truths that will send shivers down your spine. Are you brave enough to face the darkness? Horrifying History, available now wherever you listen to your podcasts. But don't wait for too long. The past might just come looking for you. Listen if you dare.